Hello and happy welcome to Huobi Talk. My name is Dennis Jacobs. I'm your host today and I'm with Rong Chen, the founder and chairman of Elastos. Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Rong, tell us about your background. I heard almost unbelievable stories about you. 17 years of experience related to the blockchain ecosystem in a way of operating systems. So just tell us where you're coming from and what is your experience?
It's been 17 years since we're doing this operating system instead of, it's not the blockchain, right?
Yeah.
I got into blockchain around 2016, so much later than when I started the Elastos project.
Okay.
My background was I started doing operating system related projects in 1985.
Wow.
And which made it almost 34 years now.
Yeah.
And that said, I'm probably the oldest, at least the oldest generation of system programmers doing operating systems from China.
Oh, I believe so.
Yeah, I went to the United States in '84. I picked my PhD thesis doing operating systems.
Wow.
So ever since then, I was doing operating systems.
Okay.
And then we're talking about why I started this project, Elastos. I started this project in year 2000. After I left Microsoft. While I was at Microsoft, I was part of the design team called Microsoft.net around winter of '98 to spring of '99. Given the name, right, the Microsoft.net,
yes.
Basically the projects were trying to make the network as a computer, which is a slogan by Sun Macro called a Java programming language.
Yes.
The founder of Java programming language had a slogan saying that the network is the computer. The Java was intended to be the virtual machine for the network OS. 8 years later, or 7 years later, actually, '99, Microsoft decided to really, doing one for the network computer.
Okay.
So they named it Microsoft.net. And at that time, I was part of the team proposed doing it in native programming language, which I will mention in our talk, why I proposed that. But then Microsoft wanted to do C# instead of C++. So that's the main reason I left Microsoft and found this company. So I was trying to do a native versions of network OS since 2000.
So Elastos, you named it in 2002, am I right?
Yeah. I registered, I trademarked it in 2002.
Beautiful. What is the name behind Elastos? What's the meaning?
Of course, from the from the surface, right? By reading it, it's elastic compute.
Yes.
And because Elastos is elastic.
Elastic.
Right, elastic.
Yeah.
And I made a wild guess, right? Because .NET was talking about network of virtual machines. Before then was the operating system were for physical machines.
Yes.
Like Linux is for the PC, and Windows is for PC as well.
Yes.
And Android is for a phone, right? iOS is for a phone. But all the previous operating systems, including majority of today's operating systems, they are for devices. They're not for networks. So when we're trying to design a network, people now can easily understand we can run virtual machines on top of physical machines now.
Okay.
But then 20 years ago, it's not that obvious, right? It's not that trivial. But today, a lot of people, at least the geeks, know about you can run virtual machines, virtual Windows on Linux, or virtual Linux on Windows. So basically, Elastos is for virtual machines.
Beautiful. I think at this point, we just recently talked about this. You said like the IoT is often misunderstood. Or what is your interpretation of the IoT?
Because IoT, if you look at the name, right, Internet of Things.
Yeah.
And when you read articles about IoT OS or IoT related projects, they're mostly doing the sensor OS, the sensor tuning. So basically, they're talking about
device communication.
Yeah, they're talking about things, right? Because like I said, most people's understanding is everything need a little OS runtime, so-called the platform to facilitate applications.
Okay.
Right. And so people are talking about things. There are so many things. There's no one size fits all solution. So of course, giving people a lot of more opportunities to design the platform for things. But then the important part actually is not the thing. The thing has been around for at least 60, 70 years now, right? Which is nothing novel, nothing new. It's just more diversified. It's cheaper. Cheaper doesn't mean it's innovative, right? But the innovative part is we have a network of things. So then the issue really comes to the network. Look what happened to today's sensor network, right? In December of 2015, video cameras launched DDoS attacks to a website called dyn.com. The DNS basically collapsed half of the United States internet. Like Facebook's gone, Twitter's gone. Basically, most of the social networks are shutting down. And 3 months later, actually, same thing happened in Germany. The whole German shut down the network because of the sensors.
Rong, could you share more about the Elastos ecosystem? I understand it's more like a SmartWeb.
Yeah. So Elastos, first of all, one people takeaway is it's a new web. It's a new internet. So this new web is built on top of a so-called peer-to-peer network, which is very common actually for smart homes. Because of our homes doesn't have an IP address, we have to have a way to find the video cameras, the routers from the people's homes, right? So we build a peer-to-peer network, and famous projects like eDonkey or BitTorrent, Napster, they're all the beginning, the first generation of the peer-to-peer network. But currently we have peer-to-peer network like Skype.com, QQ.com, and they have Internet of Things, right, connected to this network. So we built the peer-to-peer network called Elastos Carrier, and which just open sourced in February. Completely first peer-to-peer decentralized network, open sourced, whole project, open source already. And there we use blockchain. We built a Elastos blockchain, right, the second project. The Elastos blockchain issuing IDs for the web. So then all the users, all sensors, all the so-called macro websites built out of your home, out of your smart router, they all have unique IDs, and which from one user can find the macro websites, right? We make sure they're unique and very hard to fake. So that's why we need to have the Elastos blockchain. And the third project on top of it is the virtual machine. As I said, we are trying to build the peer-to-peer network to get rid of the carrier. So because it's a decentralized carrier, no middleman, no carrier really looking into your video from your home. No one is eardropping on your smart speakers, right?
Hopefully.
Because even it's a blockchain or open source, or peer-to-peer encrypted, right? So under the scrutiny of all developers, everyone in the world, and no server is redirecting the traffic. And the virtual machine is trying to get rid of the middleman of media player being the middleman. So the hard part about the virtual machine actually is, can you make it to run all applications of the internet, right? For Java apps, they run most of the apps, but they don't run all the apps. Like game engines, artificial intelligence, deep learning algorithms, they need to squeeze out every CPU cycle possible. So then we have to build this virtual machine native, running native code. Secondly, if this virtual machine let the application directly send messages out to the internet, then we cannot guarantee the security, the privacy of the user. Then if everyone can send messages anywhere, well, then we cannot guarantee the security of the network. So we have to use this carrier to prohibit applications from messages and rely on the decentralized carrier to send messages on applications' behalf. So that's why we have to build this very novel, very new kind of virtual machine, which is really the crown jewel of Elastos, which made us different from any other projects of blockchain projects today. Of course, the fourth one being the SDK. Not only we have to build the virtual machine, we have to issue SDKs to facilitate dApps, because operating system really is common denominator of all dApps. If all of them need an ID, why don't we build an ID as a fund into the system, right? If all of them need to relay messages, having the carrier relay messages, right? Why don't we build them into the SDK to make sure they have easy time to
SDK
do that.
stands for?
Software Development Kit. The internet is by design vulnerable and very error prone. Cannot sustain any kind of this scale of attacks, right? So by late 90s, we realized the key to solve this problem actually is to disallow any application, any services, any IoT devices, prevent them from accessing the internet, yet let them to be able to talk to each other.
How is that possible?
Yeah, that's the key, right?
Yeah.
So but then if I give you an example, then you realize it's not that idea is not that novel, it's not that creative, because we have two phones. Phone is a thing. And if we have two phones, we can talk to each other by dialing a phone number.
Yes.
Then we talk to each other. The voice, the calculation inside a phone could not launch attack against the carrier. Because when we make a phone conversation, there's no way we find out where are the servers,
okay.
Which route we're taking. Are we taking the cable? Are we taking the satellite? Are we taking the microwave, right? Or fiber optic? The two phones, they don't really know which route the network is routing through.
Okay.
So there's no way for the phone to attack the network, correct? But yet, if we look at the internet, we just took a completely different approach. The phone is talking about so-called virtual circuit, and the internet is calling about packet switching. Completely two different philosophies, right? And the founding fathers of the internet deliberately decided to let the internet without a carrier. So the internet was a decentralized to start with, which is...
But you're saying was, this means it's not yet, it's not anymore?
No, we are trying to make it not anymore.
Okay.
Right, it still is.
Okay.
But the design was made, the decision was made in the 70s, in the early 70s, right? Which is more than 40, 50, very close to 50 years ago now.
Yeah, oh wow, yeah, the 70s are 50 years ago.
So at that time, they decided to let the internet to be decentralized. So then everyone in the world, if you have a PC, you have a server, you can hook it up to the internet. So you have the kind of more or less like the human right. You have the right to connect to the internet, right? Yeah. Which is a very, very wise decision. And which also made the successful story of the internet today. Because people all over the world have access to the internet.
Yes.
But because of anybody can put a server, put a sensor on the network, then anybody could fake to be an identity of someone else.
Okay.
And anyone is at their will to send messages to anyone in the world, right? So at that time, we try to believe people, they're born nice. But then if you launch millions of them, right? They all have the free will to send messages. Yeah. What if they all decided to send you a message deliberately, then literally shutting down your server?
True.
Right?
True.
So that is a design feature of the internet. It's not a bug. It's a feature by which really make everybody vulnerable today. Because you see the privacy issues, you see the virus issues, you see the DDoS attack issues, you see the middleman attack issues, right? There's no way you can fix them.
Okay. Let me come back to the point you made earlier. This really stuck in my mind. You said like the vulnerability is coming from like in the IoT, the devices bring vulnerability to the whole system, to the whole network. So how to communicate without being in the internet? Is it like I just come up with an idea like doing the main work on the side chain and just publishing the information or the decision on the main chain?
of course, there's a network.
Yeah.
Like when we make a phone call to each other, you have a phone, I have a phone. We
Yes.
call each other, right? And
We agree on a frequency and then we
no.
exchange information.
There's a carrier.
Yeah.
Because right now the internet is designed peer-to-peer. Anybody could send anybody a message,
Yes.
peer-to-peer, without carrier. So you send message directly. I mean the sensor or the PC, the
Yes.
app, the services, right?
Okay.
They all directly send messages to the other party,
Okay.
without a carrier, without a middleman.
Yes.
I mean, there are some relays, but then that doesn't really count as much. That was the issue. If there were a carrier, right, and the carrier trying to send message on your behalf instead of you send the message directly, that's the difference between two models.
Okay.
One is you send message direct yourself. The other one is you tell the carrier to send the message for you.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is to make the internet safer, we have to have a carrier in the middle. So
and
then,
this is not a type of centralization in the decentralization?
that's the interesting issue, right? That's why, because of so many sensors now, so many PCs, so many phones on the network, and so many bad guys out there, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we resort to big brothers now to protect us from those malicious code or people, right?
Yeah.
So you know who the big brothers are, and like when we do WeChat, and of course you have a WeChat, I have WeChat, very much like a phone. We can do video calling, we can do voice calling, we can do send messaging, very much like
Even
a phone.
money, yeah.
Very much like a phone, right? But then in that regard, Tencent is the carrier. Make sure your ID is genuine, my ID is genuine, so we are on the front list, we can talk to each other. When we try to access a portal, they gave us something called a 公众号, right? That's a macro portal thing within WeChat. So which guarantee the portal is genuine, it's not a counterfeit.
So you explained me already what problems Elastos is trying to solve. So I heard about you chose to have our own chain. Why is Elastos not built, or the token, the ELA token, why is it not built on another chain?
First of all, we're solving a completely different problem. We are coming from the internet, and we're not the native blockchain people, right? And we're trying to use blockchain technology to solve the real world issues, and instead of the other way around. So we need to customize the blockchain. First of all, we need a blockchain to issue IDs. We don't want the internet to be controlled by...
And the Ethereum wouldn't be enough?
Ethereum, of course, if you look at the blockchain, if you look at the Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin, you can apply a wallet without anyone's approval. You can do it on your own, right?
Yeah.
No one has the right to revoke your ID. It's more or less like the internet philosophy. Everyone should have a right to access the internet, no matter which country of origin you're from.
And on Elastos, it's not like that?
It is.
Okay.
So we
you don't approve your users?
We use blockchain technology to issue internet IDs.
Okay.
Right? You see, there's a catch there. We not only issue IDs for the wallet, we're also issuing IDs for the internet. Because you don't need anyone's approval to get a ID from a blockchain. Then apply mapping it to the internet. You don't need anyone's approval to get an internet ID. Internet ID is the very, very first step for internet security.
But approval means application? This means people approve to get an ID with you and you can decide yes or no on what criteria?
No, everyone can apply ID.
Okay.
Say if you apply a ID on Tencent, in WeChat,
Yes.
or you apply ID on Facebook,
Yes.
people could revoke your ID,
Yes.
could put restrictions on your ID.
Okay.
And also, if you have an ID with WeChat, you have an ID with Facebook, they don't talk to each other.
True.
Right? Because they're two cartels.
Yeah.
They don't let
cartels, I like this.
Because if you put Alibaba's URL inside WeChat. You see what happens, right? It's not going anywhere.
Okay.
Because it's sandboxed, right?
Yeah.
It's similarly for security reasons. We see a big brother called Apple, and they charge you 30% of whatever you receive for the protection fee, right? Because the decentralization, we want to have the internet security, yet we don't want to pay the 30% to the big brother.
Good.
At least to some people don't want to pay.
So what are the three main advantages, or what is your team trying to bring to the market with Elastos?
Yeah, because as I said, 17 years ago, we started this internet OS. And of course, we have up and downs, with the projects. Sometimes when we have money, we go faster. When we don't have money, put it in the back burner and go down slow. But then, given this given this blockchain technology, now all of a sudden we're kind of enlightened. Now we have an internet without having to resort to big brothers.
Okay.
So then we can have an ID for the internet. Then we can also have a notary public for the internet, right? We keep track of the provenance of things or articles. So then that's a given. We can do that. And thirdly, on this internet, we can create so-called scarcity. Let's see how many Satoshis out there, and no more, no less, and Satoshis change hands, right? And of course, apply the same material. We can do movies, books. They're all with a limited number. The first publication is 10,000 copies, only 10,000 copies in circulation on the internet, which will make the foundation for so-called a smart economy. Because when we try to buy things, the merchandise has to have two properties. People want it, and it's scarce. Otherwise, if you can get abundant of air, you don't pay for air.
You pay economy, you pay cheap, yeah.
Right. But then if it's limited supply, then you pay for it, right? So that's the foundation of so-called a smart economy. Given the blockchain has that three properties, then we apply them to the internet, which will get a completely different enlightenment. That way, we have to modify our blockchain because we have to make like a merge mining with Bitmain. We have to set chains for those merchandises, right?
Okay.
Those are the issues. We have to change. We have to make our own chain.
And to exchange, you need a token, and this is why you came up with ELA?
ELA is not really for, we don't think of ELA as money, as a currency, because token, Bitcoin, the coin thing, I think it's a double-edged sword.
Okay.
Because it rings a bell, right? And get those investors crazy when they see coin.
Yeah.
But of course, got the government really on their edge, right? Saying, what happened, right? So, but then on the other hand, we definitely need to reward the miners. Because this Bitcoin, if you look at Bitcoin, it's an autonomous driving computer. Nobody's turning it on, nobody's turning off, as if it's an autonomous driving vehicle, right? It's just Ethereum, blockchain, they are all autonomous driving, autonomous running.
But this gives the investor much more certainty if it's controlled by someone?
No, but then that's a side effect. Actually, who is really driving it? Those miners are driving it.
Yeah.
But they're not
you have to
really
reward them.
Right, you have to reward those miners, right?
And everyone is interested to reward them to keep it running.
Because that's a human nature. They want to make some profit out of it.
Yeah.
So they're not really, their interest is not to attack the network. Their interest is just purely for the money.
Yeah. So is it true that you just sold off in the public offering 6% of your allocation?
Issued about 8 million out of 33. Token sale issued about 8 million coins.
In total supply?
In total supply of 33 million.
So it is around 25%?
Yeah.
Something. In my notes, I saw 6 million. I saw it in the 6%. I saw it also in the internet.
So 2 million out of the 8 million token sales were done in overseas, outside China.
What is the reason of keeping 75% with the project? Is there like in the future you will burn, you will give away airdrops? What is it?
We have about 3.5 million for so-called a foundation, and which basically will reward the developers. right? Whoever trying to help us contributing code and develop this SmartWeb, we call it the platform, the new internet we're building. And of course, we reserved more for our partners, because never forget this. To make the operating system succeed, we have to make the dApps succeed. We have to make the third parties succeed.
Yeah.
Like we have to develop applications on top of this web. We have to build webs. I mean, we have to encourage our partners to build websites.
We make it work for them, so they start working on it. Yeah.
So we basically will airdrop to them, all of them, right? Okay. If you do a dApp for the SmartWeb, we airdrop some coins to them.
Okay.
With the 16 million reserved is not for sale anymore.
Okay.
We guarantee
Is
on
it
our
locked
white
down?
paper. No, it's not locked down. We're just saying the foundation, like us, have no right selling them.
Okay.
We are
gives some stability in the market, yeah?
To start with.
Yeah.
And then eventually who is in charge of that 16 million? We're going to form a council, a consortium, and we let the public to vote for, like if you contribute like 1 million lines of code, of course one person could not contribute that much. Right? You have to get your little team, right? And say doing some peer-to-peer airdrop project, doing a little bit of internet game, decentralized internet game.
Yeah.
And so you need to have a team of your own, which is like a decentralized autonomous organizations or teams. And then, of course, in the community, naturally, there are some leaders will grow out of those different domains of expertise. And then we're trying to have people vote and get the so-called council members in a way more like Congress, right? And those people would decide on their 2 levels, and those guys, they decided which project we should airdrop. And how much we should airdrop. Of course, I mean, the second tier, like the Senate will decide, the council will decide how much we're going to drop.
Okay. And then the community can vote too?
Yeah, then community will vote, right? And then eventually those coins will distribute.
It's actually funny if you compare to the model of HEDX, which just came up. HEDX is also a community autonomous decentralized voting platform, yeah, the new exchange of Huobi.pro. So I see a lot of similarities there, just like in the concept itself.
Yeah. But then we are talking about literally building the real world dApps.
Yeah.
And dApps, I mean, people talk about dApps a lot. And decentralized app. From what I see, there are 2 kinds of dApps. One is a dApp without a carrier, like a Facebook without Facebook, the WeChat without Tencent, because we want to talk to each other.
So the true decentralized.
So that the first kind of dApps is without the middleman, without the carrier. Say Telegram has a telegram.com. Now they raised money to do a decentralized Telegram, which they do it themselves. They are trying to implement a Telegram without carrier.
Yeah.
So in general, quite a few apps has a concept of carrier.
Yes.
Right, the middleman. Then there's another kind of dApps, decentralized. The media, general purpose media players is another middleman. Say, if you write a book, if you shoot a short video, how many times the video being played? Who is taking advantage of you? Like the advertisement in front, right? Or the profit sharing. If you say every show of your video, you get 1 penny or 1% of the rewards. But are those media players telling the truth?
Yeah, it's not transparent.
It's not only the 1%, right? It's also the transparency of it.
Yeah.
And this is called, first degree of piracy is, of course, people buying counterfeit, buying the piracy DVDs or books, right? That's called a first degree of piracy. The second degree of piracy actually is conducted by the media player, because they don't tell you how many times your content's being played or monetized. And then can we get rid of those media player being the middleman? Then let's say actually it's the virtual machine, the operating system playing the media player playing the contents. can we make the contents a game of its own and play it directly on the virtual machine?
Very
right?
interesting.
That's why we built this virtual machine. We
Yes.
built this virtual machine OS,
Yeah.
basically to get rid of the software being the middleman. Then this idea is very novel. I believe so far nobody have talked about this kind of dApps before. Most of the dApps, like Telegram, decentralized Telegram, it's about this dApps without carrier. Now, not only we're talking about dApps without carrier, we're also talking about dApps without media player.
Where not one big brother benefits the most, because like when Telegram decentralized, they're actually raising 1.7 billion and then they're putting out and they still can like use their own name, you know, it's not the real dApp, you mean?
But that's fine. Using name is nothing illegal and people should make profit out of it. That's fine.
Okay, that's okay.
It's just like people shouldn't cheat on.
Yeah.
Right? If we agreed on, you're the author of the video.
Yeah.
If I say I give you 20% or I give you 80%, so long as we signed, which
Yeah.
is a fair deal.
Yeah.
Right? But then the second degree of piracy, which happens a lot, meaning they didn't, even though we signed 80%, 20%, I don't tell you the truth.
You can show me the backlog and the numbers, maybe. You haven't faked them.
Do we believe in it, right?
Who really does it,
of
right?
course, most of the people, they're decent, but there are always sharks out there.
Sure. Especially if so much money is in the game,
Sure.
right? Yeah. So how many people are actually in the Elastos team at the moment?
We have about, currently we have about 50, 60 full-time employee, or not, I shouldn't say employees, right? On the full-time, on the payroll. Contributors.
Okay.
Exactly. Or some of them, they call themselves volunteers. Right?
But they get paid with ELA, so it's not really volunteering. Huh?
I mean, they're volunteer in the legal sense.
Okay. So,
Right?
and you are based out of Singapore right now?
The foundation is based on
Okay.
Singapore because foundation doesn't have doesn't have a fiat account, or we don't pay fiat money there. We just give out tokens.
Okay.
Right, basically like a bounty, and you can also think of it like a red flower on your chest, and you feel so proud, right?
Good.
So because when we talk about dApps, decentralized apps, what is an app? Apps is something that a consumer will touch, feel, right? The app really, it's not just software. A lot of people misunderstood app from software. Because on an iPhone, we have at least 40 CPUs in the iPhone. On the Mercedes-Benz, the car, we have at least 100 CPUs built into the vehicle, right? But then there's only one CPU running the app, right? Like on an iPhone, we have a CPU for the camera, we have a CPU for the loudspeaker, we have a CPU for the battery sensor, the temperature of the battery, and we have a CPU for more or less every peripheral, all the things. But then only one CPU let the user directly contact with, talk to, right, interact with, which is the main CPU. So, but then all CPUs has applications, has software developed for them, but yet only one CPU facilitate apps, which is very important concept because when we see the blockchain projects today, the blockchain with the capability of the blockchain, we see what happened to CryptoKitty. Actually, blockchain is not really for consumers. Blockchain is for geeks, for developers.
You think so? Not even today?
Not ever.
Not yet?
Not ever.
Even in the future?
No, not even. I believe in the future, blockchain is not for consumers.
Wow.
Because given blockchain is very specific, very unique, basically without blockchain, before 2009, we don't have such characteristics, right? We don't have such features such as like autonomous driving computer or decentralized ledger, right? We need to resort to the bank for transactions. We need to resort to middleman. But so that's how great the blockchain is. But the blockchain itself is a very, very simple piece of software, I mean, very good idea, right?
But why then end consumer cannot be part of it? I mean, just in a case of the applications on the blockchain, the consumer will get in touch.
Like I said, the carrier,
Yeah.
like the carrier, like China Mobile, AT&T, whatnot, right? They are for the consumers, but they're not directly interact with the consumer. The consumer interact with the phone. The phone is right running on a carrier.
Yeah.
So it means the consumer will touch the phone.
Sure.
The consumer doesn't really touch the carrier.
So, but this doesn't mean that we're not there yet, or we will never get there. And you say it stays for geek, but just now from understanding, it doesn't have to go there even to grow big, right? Because the consumer then will get with Surface product in touch, but never needs to really understand the geeky thing behind.
Right, because everything's hidden. For consumers,
okay.
the consumers, they access the computer, they access the phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't really directly access the blockchain
Sure.
itself. So the blockchain is an enabler that enables the possibility of a dApp. But the blockchain itself cannot run dApp. Just like when we look at the phone, right? We have a fingerprint sensor.
Yeah.
And we use the fingerprint sensor to log into the phone, correct?
Correct.
But the application doesn't really run on the fingerprint sensor. The application runs on the main CPU. The fingerprint sensor by itself is a computer, right? The fingerprint data is not really stored on your hard drive.
And the fingerprint is my ID in this case.
The fingerprint data is stored in that little computer called a fingerprint computer, called a trust zone. Because what if your computer got infected by a virus? So the virus could read your hard drive, then can steal your fingerprint data to abuse it, right?
Okay.
So that's why the trust zone is by itself a little computer and store your fingerprint data, right? That little computer is glued into the main CPU. To get it, you have to literally break the CPU.
Okay.
Then when you break the CPU, you break the data, right? So that's why the trust zone on a phone to protect users' identity or fingerprint data. That's a common knowledge for phone manufacturers. What is a blockchain? It saves the ledger, your ID, your provenance, the hash code for this digital signature of your article, right? So that's equivalent to the digital signature of your fingerprint. That machine has a very important role to play, but itself is not really for applications. That's what I want to really, really emphasize.
Okay.
Because you see, how many people really are doing the dApps, running services on the blockchain? They emphasize the value of smart contract.
Good. So we have just a few geeks doing it right now. Would you encourage young people in the 20s to really become blockchain developers, or?
This is a very novel creation. Definitely deserve like researchers or geeks to hack into or improve, right? But what I'm saying is that's not the place to run apps. Just as of the phone, the fingerprint reader is not really for apps.
Okay.
Right? I mean, so long you know what's happening, which part has more opportunity, develop more market opportunities to improve the fingerprint reader. Definitely there are thousands, even tens of thousands people improving the fingerprint reader. Believe me, in the world. But then there are more opportunities, right, to develop dApps. That's what I'm trying to compare the two things.
Okay.
There are definitely more opportunities on the internet, the decentralized internet, than on blockchain itself.
Yeah, you have a very clear view on it. I like it. Coming to an end, what do you think is the future of blockchain in general?
So that's what I'm saying. The blockchain has still, at one very early stage of life, has a long way to go. But so far, from what I can see, at least some things are mature enough for the real market.
Like currencies at the moment. Wouldn't you say so? Currencies
No.
are not there yet?
Currency is not the one. The ID is one.
Okay.
like the hash.
But why currency is not ready yet?
Because the transaction speed is not there.
Okay, and
So it's
they can't
like
scale
a gold. It's like like a reserve, right? Money reserve. It's not the money itself. So it's not really for trading. It's for like valuable metals, right?
Depending on the amount of users. Right now, we can use it between me and you. Some projects like Dash,
But then
quite
that's
quick
not
transactions, decentralized.
how quick, right? Comparing to Alipay or compared to PayPal. We have only very few geeks right now believe in it and trading between themselves. We're not really consumers
That's true.
at that scale yet.
So you're talking about mass adoption and getting like
Correct.
20% of the population in it, and then it wouldn't work. You know, the fees would just go up, and the transaction would take weeks. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So that's why. Yeah.
What is going on with ELA and Elastos in the future? What are some partnerships coming out? What do you want to develop? Are you launching something?
Yeah, we March 15th we just had the first dApps meetup. We invited 5 of our partners to give a talk during the meetup. The very first one is called Zapier. They're doing the face-to-face airdrop. So this is peer-to-peer network. So
face-to-face airdrop? You mean like P2P?
Like face-to-face, like a iPhone airdrop.
Okay.
So, but then the cross-platform, can we airdrop from iPhone to Android, Android to PC, PC to Mac?
Yeah.
Right? We need airdrops.
Okay.
So then we can play mahjong face-to-face.
Okay.
So we can trade ebooks face-to-face, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
And then that's the one of our the first our partners. The second one being the decentralized gaming platform called Reactor.
Okay.
And the third one is a IoT smart home related project. And of course, the fourth one and fifth one are very typical blockchain projects like the solar panels and keep track of the who generates what, save the carbon generation, saving the green earth.
Yeah, good. So there are things in the pipeline with Elastos in the future, and ELA,
Yeah, ELA, as I said, we're deliberately trying to make it useful, like register websites and register names and reward the miners or reward the developers. Mm-hmm. So make the ELA a valuable merchandise or treasure metal, valuable metal that in that sense. So while I believe the other one is we are building a public chain. So long as we have enough developers, we have enough users on top, then people slowly will build their trust because it's all open source.
Yeah.
I don't believe...
Critical mass, huh?
Yeah, I don't believe a public chain by itself can bring trust. It's the volume, it's the traffic brings the trust.
Yeah, only if people use it without
only
its
people,
worthless.
right. And people, after they use it, after the developers scrutinize the code, they start to believe no one really controlling the execution of this smart web. So we build trust. And when we build the trust, of course, and then people start trading, at least trading the names, trading the websites, then we generate traffic, right? And we're trying to build a smart economy. Mm-hmm. So this smart economy has a fundamental, such as if the GDP of the smart economy, what is the GDP of this smart economy?
Hard to value, huh?
Hard to value, but then if you look at it, there are about at least 40 million Bitcoin users right now, mm-hmm. right? 40 million, it's on par to South Korea, population-wise.
Okay.
And of course, they're more geeks and they're more active, and the age-wise is more concentrated to the young generation. So their buying power is definitely more than the 40 million Koreans, South Koreans, correct? Then if that's the case, can we say the foundation to the Korean yen would be the smart economy foundation? So we start from there.
Korean
right?
one.
Right, we start from there. We start from like 5 apps and maybe, let's say we're today, this year, our target is to build to install 10,000 smart routers or set-top boxes into homes. Wow. So the peer-to-peer network will have 10,000 nodes and grow from here, right? And if we have 10,000 nodes out there, maybe we have 100,000 users. And because like Zapier, currently they have 500 million registered users, have about 40 million active users. Mm. If the adoption rate is just 1% of it, mm-hmm. right? Just 1% of that is what, right? Just like we hope to have 400,000 like users by the end of this year. So we built the population of the smart economy from this point onward.
Beautiful. I wish you good luck, and thanks for joining Huobi Talk today. All the best, my friend.
Thank you.